Senator Roberts.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Home Affairs, Senator Watt. Australia has 300,000 hotel rooms and 140,000 Airbnbs. These are, of course, turned over many times, and there are 26 million Australians as well using these rooms for their own holidays. Into this small stock of rooms, the Australian Bureau of Statistics reports that in financial year 2022-2023, there were 5.86 million arrivals staying on average of 14 days. Minister, has this almost 500% increase in tourists under your government motivated landlords to move their property from long-term rental accommodation for everyday Australians to short-stay accommodation for hotel overflow?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Watt.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Senator Roberts. There's a lot in that, and I'm not. It seems to be as much about tourism and housing as it is about migration, but I'll attempt to answer the question. The figures that you quoted there, I can't verify whether they're accurate or not, the 5 million number that you said, and I presume that that would include a substantial number of tourists. But if your question relates to migration figures, the government has obviously already announced a number of measures to fix what is a hopelessly broken migration system that we inherited not just from the opposition but from the minister responsible for it, being one Mr Peter Dutton. Mr Dutton was the Home Affairs Minister for the bulk of the former government and oversaw the migration system that we now inherit, that allowed for rampant exploitation, that allowed for abuse of the migration system, in some cases by education providers that we see now, and we are taking steps to try to address that. It's a shame that the opposition, who have got a lot to say now, didn't do a single thing about these issues when they were in government. We've ended the pandemic event visa, we've ended unlimited working hours for international students and work exemptions for working holiday visa holders. We've increased the temporary skilled migration income threshold, which is the first increase in a decade. So these are some of the steps that our government has taken to fix the hopelessly broken migration system that was presided over by Mr Dutton as the Home Affairs Minister. I don't know, Senator Roberts, whether that directly addresses your question, because, as I say, there was a lot in it. But we are taking steps to try to fix that migration system once and for all.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Roberts, first supplementary.
Thank you. According to departmental data, in the 2022-2023 financial year, the department issued a record 687,000 student visas. Not many have departed because, due to COVID, most have only been here less than a year. Minister, Australia has 100,000 dedicated student accommodation beds. Where are the other 500,000 or so students staying?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Watt.
Thank you, Senator Roberts. I don't think you'd expect that I'd be able to give you a precise address for every single international student who is living in Australia at the moment. But as I say, if those opposite have complaints about the number of international students who are in Australia at the moment, perhaps they could have done something about the system when they were in government for 10 years. Perhaps they could have done that. So now you don't. Now you're not supporting him. So Senator Canavan's supporting Senator Roberts, but the Liberals aren't in agreement. So where are the coalition on these issues? Nationals saying one thing, Liberals saying another, and there's one of them.
Senator Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Senator Hughes.
Perhaps you could encourage Minister Watt to direct his answers through you rather than people who didn't ask the question.
I will certainly do that, Senator Hughes, and I will also direct, particularly those on my left, to stop interjecting with their comments. It is disrespectful. Minister Watt, please make your remarks to the chair.
Thank you, President. Well, President, it is interesting to see that there seems to be a split between the Liberal and the National Party on this issue. Senator Canavan and the other Nationals backing in One Nation and the Liberals wanting to run a mile. But of course, apart from fixing the migration system, this government is doing more than the former government ever did when it came to the provision of housing. And just to remind you of one measure, that housing Australia.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Roberts, second supplementary.
Thank you. In the last financial year, the department issued a record 441,000 business visas, plus a record 195,000 permanent migrant visas, plus another 10,000 humanitarian visas, plus another 47,000 temporary work visas. After departures, the net increase here was another 500,000. Minister, where are these 500,000 people going to stay, and is this insane level of intake the reason Australians can no longer find an affordable home?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Watt.
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Well, in your previous question, Senator Roberts, you did acknowledge that one of the reasons that we have seen a spike in migration is because there has been a return to Australia of international students and workers, and tourists for that matter, since COVID. So it's no surprise that we have seen an increase in migration numbers, given there was at least a couple of years where people basically couldn't come to Australia. There was always going to be a degree of catch-up in there. But you asked what we're doing about housing, and again, what I say is that this government has done more, certainly than the last coalition government, and probably more than any other former Australian government, to fix the issues that we do have around housing, and they are very real. We didn't see investment from the former coalition government in public housing for nearly 10 years, and we're fixing that. We're delivering the Housing Australia Future Fund, which, Senator Roberts, last time I remember you voted against. So you cared so much about housing that you voted against a fund that was going to build more homes. We're also providing more money for social housing and rental assistance.